Welcome back to Swirl, your A through Z, covering the LGBT, LMNOP, and everyone in between show. I'm Michelle Meow, your host. You can catch all of our content at swirlradio.com, or, yes, we are here every Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, live. It's always good to be able to see us in person, isn't it? We're actually somewhat good looking. Okay, I'll stop the shameless plug. So recently, Campus Pride Executive Director Shane Winmeyer wrote an open piece on Huffington Post about his friendship with Dan Cathy and how his organization has suspended campaigns and protests against Chick-fil-A on college campuses. And while this article made a great point and my grubby hands were ready to dig in some Chick-fil-A, our next guest wrote a response on Huffington Post simply stating, not so fast, Michelle Meow et al. Let's welcome Jamie McGonnigal of Talk About Equality to Swirl. Jamie, welcome to Swirl.
Thanks very much. Very glad to be here.
So Shane Winmeyer, as I said, directed students for an effective campaign against Chick-fil-A and Dan Cathy, and he's also had the privilege to get to know him better, and more importantly, was privy to these tax returns he talks about that state Chick-fil-A no longer donates to anti-gay organizations such as Exodus International and Focus on the Family. But you still say, not so fast. Why?
Yeah, well, first of all, the first problem comes in what you just said, which is that Shane is claiming that Chick-fil-A has stopped giving to anti-gay organizations, which is entirely untrue. Even Shane said in his article, which I went after him for, he said that they've only stopped giving to the, quote, most divisive anti-gay organizations. The only ones he was able to name were Exodus International, Family Research Council, and I believe Focus on the Family. There are at least 4 or 5 others that I know of that they've given far more money to that are just as anti-gay, and so it's still very problematic. Nothing has changed as far as our community is concerned, and I feel it's irresponsible for Shane to have published this article, essentially giving people the all clear to go back to Chick-fil-A.
Now, you raise a very important question, or should I say an eyebrow, a very, inquisitive an eyebrow, because Dan Cathy, gives this information, this private information, of these tax returns to Shane, and as you said in your response, not to a member of the media, if you really wanted, the entire world to know that, he's moved on from these anti-gay organizations. My feeling is, after reading your piece, it's like, well, duh, you would give this information to Shane because he led a crusade of college students, poor college students who feed off of fast food forever.
Right.
Right. Is that your point? Is that what you were going to say? Do you think that that's maybe behind it?
Well, it's not a reporter that he could have given it to. It could have been to a much further reaching organization like GLAAD or Human Rights Campaign or Task Force or really anyone else that deals with a much broader audience than Campus Pride does. But Campus Pride would be Chick-fil-A's window to this world of very lucrative college campuses with their food courts all over the place, and like you said, very hungry, poor college students who are just itching for fast food. I feel the other thing that raises an eyebrow, as you mentioned, is the fact that I feel like Shane was romanced by Dan Cathy. He was invited to go to the Chick-fil-A Bowl as Dan Cathy's guest. I'm not sure I'm sure Dan Cathy's whole family was there, but there's no mention or no photos on Shane's Twitter feed of his husband there. So there are a lot of questions that I still would very much like to see Shane answer. Who paid for the plane tickets? It would be, in my opinion, unethical if the executive director of a national organization were accepting gifts from someone we had an action against. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying this definitely happened, but it raises questions that are yet to be answered. And they're questions that have been posed to Shane that he's not responding to.
You actually had the honor, or the opportunity to talk to Shane and discuss this very topic on Huffington Post Live, in which we're playing. We've been playing a small clip of on screen. So what's his response to you in raising some of these questions that you have for him?
There is none. That's the problem. Is even during the interview, I had no idea what I was going into. Every once in a while, I'll get an email from someone at HuffPost Live and saying, hey, can you come talk about XYZ? And I jumped at the opportunity because it's fun. When they said Chick-fil-A, I was like, yes, I know a lot about this. I'm very happy to jump in. And about 10 minutes before the interview, they sent me Shane's piece, which had just been posted. And I was like, I don't have much time to digest this. But as I was going through, those same questions were raised immediately. I started taking notes. Zach Ford, as well, from Think Progress LGBT, who's fantastic, has been asking a lot of similar questions. In the interview, we actually both had very different questions, but very relevant questions nonetheless. And Shane didn't answer any of them. He was very political about all the answers that he gave. He spoke something about being authentic, and he believed truly that Dan Cathy was his friend, and, more power to him. I think it's awesome. I think it's really important that we reach out to people who oppose us, and we change their minds. That's fantastic. But when you're the executive director of an organization that currently has an action against them, or actually had suspended the action against them back in September, I feel like there are problems, and like we said, it raises eyebrows and questions to have this budding friendship and to be, receiving things like trips to the Chick-fil-A Bowl when something like this is going on.
Yeah, maybe we'd all change our minds if we were invited to the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Shoot. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
But I was almost there. I know what you mean by the romancing, because I was almost romanced by, Shane's article that he posted on the Huffington Post. I mean, that's how bad I kind of want to try a Chick-fil-A sandwich. Sure, not really.
There are questions. There are still so many questions, though, that haven't been answered. Everything from, has Campus Pride or Shane received anything in exchange for this piece that he wrote? Again, I'm not saying that it has. I just want the questions answered. There are a lot of questions that are just unanswered. I find it problematic,
So, compassion, which is a great thing. We should have some compassion for Dan Cathy at all, or no?
Personally, no. I don't think we should have compassion for Dan Cathy. I think we should have a listening ear. I think we should respect his opinion, absolutely. But I do not think we should jump back into bed with someone who has caused so much harm to our community by giving money to organizations that have been linked to the Ugandan Kill the Gays bill. I mean, it's huge that a leader of an executive director of a national organization like this would all of a sudden post something about being this guy's BFF. I think Shane ignores the damage that has been done by Dan Cathy and the organizations he represents. Like I said, it's great to reach out and have these conversations with people that stand against us. I do it with my father on a regular basis. But to all of a sudden, and I know he didn't technically say everyone can go back to Chick-fil-A. But that's what everyone is getting from his post. Yeah. It's what you got from his post. It's what straight friends of mine got from his post, which is why I felt compelled to write a response. And I feel like what he did was irresponsible, and I feel like he spoke on behalf of the LGBT community when he did not have that authority in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I didn't get it. Maybe if I got invited to the Chick-fil-A Bowl, I might change my mind too. It's
you can be sold with the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Jamie, you have been exceptional
I find the whole thing pretty problematic, and I think some answers me to be given.
Jamie, you have been wonderful and exceptional here on Swirl, and thank you so much for giving your 2 cents on the whole Chick-fil-A thing, just because, we needed to know. I mean, if it's for real that Dan Cathy was, leaning more towards being supportive, that's one thing, but if there is some questions that we should ask, I definitely think that your article asked the right ones.
Thank you very much.
For people who would like to follow you, find more information, or talk to you, is there a way that we can do that? I know you're the founder of talkaboutequality.org.
.com.
.com, I'm sorry.
The .org one got all in trouble with random hijackers.
You got it.
So I'm now .com. So talkaboutequality.com. You can follow me on Twitter at McBenefit, McBenesit, and I usually respond to people. So
awesome.
And I'm at the New Organizing Institute in Washington D.C. is where I work. So
thank you so much, Jamie.